Wait, you're telling me they bought a house and got money back at closing? That is exactly what happened with some of my clients recently, y'all. So first of all, you don't have to have 20% down. You don't have to have 5 or 10% down to buy a home necessarily. So especially with an FHA loan, which is a first time home buyer product, typically it's 3.5% down. Y'all, there is such thing as down payment assistance, often in the form of like a second lien or like a second loan. But that 3.5% can be covered more than likely. They didn't have just a ton of cash to play with to buy a house. And I told them, I said, hey, why don't you guys talk with this lender? I recommended a lender. They talked with that lender and the lender said, yeah, you qualify. They qualified for what's called down payment assistance. And so that 3.5% is covered. So if you're buying a home, there is such a thing as closing costs. Typically, they equal about 3% of the home price. So if you're getting a $200,000 house, probably around $6,000-7,000 in closing costs. That covers the lender origination fee. I mean, they got to get paid. The appraisal oftentimes like $600-700. But anyways, closing costs are about 3%. So what I was able to do in this case was I negotiated in their contract for seller to cover their closing cost, or that 3% roughly. They had down payment assistance on an FHA loan, plus the seller was covering all their closing costs. So they got to the closing table and got a check back, and they got a house. How awesome is that, y'all? Buyers, this is your market. If you've been waiting to buy a home, the interest rates are ticking down. And while those rates tick down, more buyers come into the market. Every time we see rates go down, even like 0.1%, talk to any lender. They're going to tell you their applications are up. There's more buyers coming in the market to compete with those homes that you potentially could get under contract for. Oh, and probably have that seller pay your closing costs like we had in this situation. So I just want to dissuade any of y'all that think you have to have 5, 10, 20% was the common myth that you have to buy a home. It's not true. It's just flat out not true. You can get money back at the closing table. This market is prime to do things like that. We have a market right now where there are more homes than ever listed for sale. More homes than ever. Few buyers. Buyer's market. Holy